I want to talk about somebody because I've been on my mind, obviously. Um, when I have a tooth that's bothering me, I have this tooth back here that all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it became real sensitive to heat and cold, and it's miserable. It's like an incredibly bad pain. And I looked at it. I don't see anything wrong with it because I was taught by an individual how to look at things. And it so happens every time I'm in a situation, I realize how this man was a true angel. He was a true gift from God, and he was a very religious person. So I wanted to just do a testimony about his life. That's about the best way I can think about it until I can find a dentist, and it might just go away on its own. It might be nothing, but it's got my nerves up a little bit, and especially the depth of the pain. So it's a tooth that actually he had fixed at one point. I was in college when I first met this man. I had an impacted wisdom tooth, and it was really bad. It was something I'd put off and put off and put off, and finally it got to be at a philosophy class, and it got to be where I couldn't put it off anymore. So I went to different dentists, and the pain was intense, and nobody, even dental surgeons, nobody would talk to me or fix it for me, and they just thought it was beyond their level. So I'm sitting there, and I'm lost all faith, okay, in anything. And my grandmother said, "Why don't you go to old Doc Kimmick back in the mountain?" I'm thinking, "Oh, that sounds great." But it was my only option, and we called him up, and I go there, and there's this guy that looks like George Animal Steel, and he's a retired dentist, and he said, "There's never had a tooth I couldn't fix." So I looked in, and yeah, that wisdom tooth needs pulled. So I'm looking. He didn't give me a Novocaine. He just pulled it, and it didn't hurt. He didn't have to sew it. He didn't have to do anything. And I realized at that point, number one, no matter what it cost me at that point, I was willing to pay, which he didn't charge me a lot. And number two, I realized that I was speaking to a man that had a lot of experience and knew what he was doing, and I could trust. So it so happened that I went to Doc Kimmick for everything I needed done. Um, Anything minor, like today, if it was Doc Kimmick was alive right now, I could call Walter up and I'd say, "Hey, can I drive over to Boswell and could you help me out?" And if he would either today or tomorrow, he'd make time and he would help me out. And a lot of times he had people that couldn't pay, and he would do things for free for them. In fact, he told me one time they thought they had found, and it wound up being a scam, natural gas on his property, his farm, and he would be getting $30,000 a month for his usage. And he said, "Do you realize what this means to me, Will?" He says, "I will be able to help people for free. I can have a free clinic." And I looked at him and I put my hand on his shoulder and I said, "Doc, you are one of the rarest people I've ever met because that is something not very many dentists would say." So Doc Kimmick, he was a pretty amazing guy. His father had been a Major League Baseball player, Wally Kimmick. And I really miss Doc Kimmick. Not because of right now that I could go to him, but because he was fair. And he said to me one time, he says, "You go to me because I'm cheap." And I said, "No, Doc, I always pay you." And I says, "The fact that you care matters." And since then, I ran into dentists that really aren't. I ran into people that are pretty rotten and pretty nasty and cruel. And I've never met another Walter Kimmick. And the last time I saw him, he was going to an old folks' home. And he lasted there a few years. We had a great conversation about life. And I miss his spiritual guidance above anything, even a dental. Um, Doc could always give me spiritual advice. He was a mentor in my life in a lot of ways. And there are many times I would go over and talk to him, and I didn't want to do the job that I do anymore, helping out youth. And he told me to keep the faith. He told me I was there for a reason. I was there to do something with my life. And yes, make a lot of sacrifices. Yes, have a lot of sacrifices, such as not making a lot of money, having really great insurance, and having a cozier, softer life. I was one of the grunts. I was one of the soldiers in the war. Okay, I was one of the people that was there to get beat up a little bit by life. In fact, get beat up a lot by life, but I was there for a reason. And since then, my body, like this right now, makes me realize that probably I made too many sacrifices. But one of my heroes who made a lot of them was Walter Kimmick. Doc Kimmick made his money. Yes, he was a professor at Pitt. He taught dental, and he he had his own practice. But he was always a caring person. He was not about the dollar. He was about the soul. He was about looking at people, even people that other people wouldn't even try to help out. I know one woman, in fact, that needed help, and he said to her, "Well, can you clean my house? And if you do it so many times a week, that'll be fine." You don't find that this day and age, and it's a rough time. Like right now, I'm dealing with the world right now. I'm living in more of a rural area, even though I have insurance. Many of the doctors around here don't take it. The dentists, um, for whatever reason, I pay for it, and it's a catch-22. It's a rope-a-dope game, and a lot of people can't get in right now. That's what I'm kind of worried about because a lot of people have said to me, they're waiting 3 or 4 months just to get in to see a doctor or a dentist, and things are going to get a whole lot worse. But it wasn't always like that. There was a day and age where there were men like Walter Kimmick that you could call up, and they were that last line of defense. They were the angels in the world. They were the heroes. That's how I like to think of Doc Kimmick, as a hero and an angel. And I was just sitting there thinking about him today. I was thinking, yeah, I can't call him, and I have to find somebody else, obviously. But I just thought that, if there is a heaven, that gentleman definitely, he made his way in. So just think about Doc Kimmick, and I want to just say a testimony to his life. The greatness, the love, the kindness, the compassion, the sincerity, the values he lived by. They're ones that reciprocate through me in the work I do. And I always think of him. Thank you, Doc.